31st of May, 1927.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.
I remember as I had a paper route, and I got word to come down and pick up my papers, and I was over on the west side of Jamestown, and going around my paper route with extra paper and seeing people crying. And I was like 14 years old, and it was very sad. And they probably got a hatred of the Japanese people, which I don't think I ever did. I realized it wasn't the people there, it was the people that ran the country. I had the feeling that I wanted to do something for the effort. So I was in my senior class, like in the spring, and I walked up to the Naval Recruiting Office, which is up in the old post office. Yeah, it was a post office. And they had a room in there, and I walked from high school, I walked right in there. I said, I would like to enlist in the Navy. I was 17. He said, here's your papers, but you got to get your parents to sign for it. So I went home, and I talked my parents into signing. And I think they wanted to do it. They wanted me to do something like that, but I never consulted them. So, and I told them, well, I want to go in the Navy because every time at night I'll have a nice bed to sleep in and all this kind of stuff. But if I went in the Army and they were going to recruit me there, I'm in a foxhole. I gave them a story. I'm sorry, but that's what I did. I wanted them to sign the thing. And so they signed it. And of course, that wasn't true, what I told them, but so that's what happened. When I enlisted in the Navy, I missed all my final exams in 1945. Merton Corwin, this is when I was in Sampson, which is for boot training. I got a letter from my mother saying, Mr. Corwin wanted me to come down to the high school, and I have a diploma for your son, who was me. So I took it without taking my finals. But I had never flunked anything. They figured I was going to be okay. That happened to a lot of guys.
So where did you go do your basic training?
Sampson, which is out near Geneva, New York. It's on Lake Seneca. The very first day, you go in there, and of course they take everything you own on your body, put it in a box and send it back to home. You're standing there and getting shots and different things like that. So they give you clothes. And it was warm out. I remember the day it was warm. So I go out there, they had long sleeve shirts. I start rolling up my shirts. And I got yelled at really hard. No, put those sleeves on. And right at that moment, I realized this is going to be different. I'm going to grow up. It's discipline. They tell you to do something, you do it. And I rolled those sleeves down really quick. I'll never forget that. We were in boot camp, and one of the last week probably there, or sometime in that period, the company commander got all those guys together in a group. He said, gentlemen, I have something to tell you. That's the first time he ever called us gentlemen. The war is over. I'll never forget it.
Repeating this bulletin, dated San Francisco, the Federal Communication Commission quotes Domai saying, Japan accepts allied terms.
We sat there looking at each other. What? Because when you're in boot camp, you don't get much news from the outside. You probably, maybe you've done it. But the war was over. And this is strange. I said, now I can't contribute anything to the war effort. It's over. I was, in a way, I didn't like it. Of course, I wanted the war to be over. And then, because of my age and everything, I wasn't able to say, get out there and do something against the enemy. It was a dumb thing. I was 18. By that time, I was 18. And so, I'd never been out of the city of Jamestown. And to me, when I got done with the boot training, I was a totally different person. And I say today, I know a lot of younger people, going in the military is not a bad thing. You don't want to get shot at, obviously. But I think it's a great thing. And a lot of those older guys, it turns out later, were discharged, honorably discharged, because they're in their 30s. And some of them were in boot camp with us young guys, Well, I came home for a couple of days, and then we took a train from Sampson to San Francisco, troop train. I got on a ship which would have been a passenger ship, but it became a troop ship, or to carry troops. It held about 5,000 troops, but I was a temporary part of that ship, just while I was sailing toward where we were going to go. So I was on that ship until we got to Okinawa. And that's where I got on the ship I was assigned to. AK-118. It was a cargo ship. And the name of it was Shaula, Shaula, to Japan.
Okay.
And that's the ship didn't move very fast, like 10 knots. It was a very slow moving ship. And it wasn't a fighting ship. We had guns on it, but stuff like that. And we ended up, first place is Hiroshima, where they dropped the first bomb. I didn't get off the ship there. And the next one was Nagasaki, was the second bomb, and there I got off the ship.
Hiroshima, August 6, 1945. At Nagasaki, the destructive capacity of the bomb used was greater than that at Hiroshima, but the actual area razed was smaller because of the terrain and the point of fall of the bomb.
And we didn't realize what had happened exactly, except we were told the city was devastated. And so we walked around. It was like, I call it rubble. Rubble being everything from stones to buildings to leveled. One bomb.
And how many days after the explosion were you there?
Well, it was less than 2 months. And I guarantee you, we should not have been there, but we were. Radiation, whatever. But I'll never forget that scene. And we walked around, and somebody said, one bomb does, and we all of a sudden, we said, that can't be. But it was true. And it was like factories, you could see where the factories were. And it's made in the United States. This is, stuff that is shipped over there for their manufacturing. And it gave you a funny feeling. Part of the city there were buildings standing in part of the city. It's a large city. And they tried to get the bomb in the area where most of the manufacturing was. But still, killed a lot of people. And so I know you're going to probably ask this question, how do I feel about that? I think it was the right thing. I think Harry Truman did the right thing. But then I think about the people that were killed or, had the effect of the radiation and whatever, that lived in Japan, innocent people. So it was a tough thing. I think he did the right thing. I thought about it many times. I was talking to the guys at the Y today. I was telling them I was coming down here. And I said, that question is going to come up. And here's my answer.
practiced.
But doesn't excuse the fact that a lot of people, innocent people, were killed. But then, on the other hand, if you look at it, they're talking about a 2-year, probably minimum, of us invading the Japanese country, and they fought hard. Even in Okinawa, they could see the handwritings on the wall. That was a bloody place, and I'm glad I was on a ship. Of course, that happened before I got there. So, in one place, like I said, where I saw this equipment over there, I went over and looked at it, and that was where I said, "Hey, look, guys, this was made in the United States." So what? That was before anything happened over there. That was years and years before that. And there was nothing open. No, we didn't meet. There was nothing there. I mean, you can't. It was like going down a street and let's go have a sandwich. It wasn't there. And these buildings were still standing. Windows were out. They were practically ready to fall down. No, there was nothing like that. We didn't need any money because there was nothing to buy. 400 feet long, about 10,000 ton ship. It was a regular ship, to deliver cargo. I was a below decks person, and it was a single screw ship. It was pretty slow. And what I did was I worked in what they call the fire room, where we produced steam, and the engine room was right next door, and that's what drove the ship. So we'd sit there and watch, and a pump was pumping water up, and the furnace were heating it up. That's what we did on our ship. That's what I had to do. People that were on board, on the upper deck, doing a job. I don't know what they were doing. Delivering cargo, picking it up. Well, I was on the ship for about another year, or a little over a year. If we got hungry, we knew how to get over into one of the holes. And they had, I never forget, canned stuff. I remember one time getting a can of turkey. Honest.
Liberty ships were vulnerable, not because they lacked serious defensive weaponry, but because they were slow. Convoys of Liberty ships, numbering 50 or 60, would lumber along at just 10 miles per hour.
A lot of my shipmates took up smoking and drinking. We'd have like in some of the areas where, like in the Philippines, we were down there for quite a while. We got off the ship. There was nothing there. We'd play softball and do things like that, and they'd had beer there, which I never touched. I think one time I tried it, I said, "How can you drink this?" And so I never did. I got seasick one time, and I was going out of San Francisco on this other ship. They have what they have is they call it sea swells, or things that come in under the Golden Gate Bridge. And man, it was horrible. That one day I got sick. We did. Going from Japan, the South China Sea, down to the Philippines. Went through a typhoon. And excuse me, and these things that we had on board the ship, like these LSTs, and everything else that was not fastened down, we lost everything we had on that ship. We got down to the Philippines, went into the dry dock. It was bad. That typhoon was terrible. We were in dry dock because it was sort of nice because we were thinking, hey, we don't have anything to do now.
That's right.
Forget it. You know what barnacles are? Yeah. They rigged ropes at a platform, and we were out there scraping barnacles off the bottom of that ship. Across the equator was another experience.
Did you go through the procedure when you crossed the equator?
You bet. People in charge of it who are already, first you're a pollywog, then you're a shellback after you cross it. So all these shellbacks were making this thing up. The thing I remember, it wasn't so bad for a guy like myself, the seaman or fireman. We're the enlisted men, The officers are the one that got it worse, that hadn't gone through this. But I remember they had a chute-like thing full of you name it. And you had to crawl through there. And it was long, about from here to that wall.
I can imagine what they put in it.
Oh, you went in there, you did it. You get out the other end, and I personally remember taking my clothes off and throwing them over the side of the ship.
Yeah.
Now the officers, I think, had it worse. Nobody got hurt, except your pride. And I think they probably got it worse because hey, if you're an enlisted man, look at this guy, where you gonna get it? And that's what I don't think anybody hurt.
Did they pound on you? Did they do all that?
Nah, not too.
Gauntlet type stuff?
Yeah, a little bit of that.
Was there a chair? I've seen chairs. Did they do anything else that other than go through that?
Yeah, the main thing was that crawling through that thing, but there were, yeah, you did a couple other things, but none of us to hurt you. Okay, go ahead, do it. You know, they said, do not try to fight back, or they're going to really get it. And that's what we did. I'm glad I did that.
And you got a certificate?
I got it at home. If you ever want to see it. And from there to Pearl Harbor, took forever. At 10 knots, you know, that's not very fast. And it was pretty boring. You went in, did your watch, and you got some sleep, you know, day after day, week after week. That took weeks. It's a long ways. You look at a globe, you could see all those miles.
Yeah.
We were there for one summer in 1946, and I was on another ship. It was a subchaser. But that was in dry dock too. So that was good news. They was in dry dock, and we could walk to the center of Seattle every day, except one day you had to, but you didn't have to watch anything because the ship was in dry dock. So that was pretty good duty. I got on a train, and this is strange. I was in Seattle, Washington, all the way to Long Island to get discharged. It doesn't seem right, but that was a long trip. So I was in the Navy about a year and a half. And then they gave you enough money, and I had enough money to take the Erie train to Jamestown, which I did. Well, actually, no, the train I took was to New York Central. I had to go to Buffalo, and then I took a bus down to Jamestown. And see, my parents didn't even have a telephone. It's not like today, you call everybody. They didn't even have a telephone. What was I supposed to do? And so I had indicated to him, and my mother, she was the one I wrote to, because my dad he couldn't write English, actually. So he could speak some of it. And so I said, well, one of these days I'll be coming home. I can't tell you exactly when. So I get the bus, walked from downtown Jamestown to Front Street, Jamestown, opened the door, and that was it. It was nice.
Do your kids, do they sit down and say, Dad, tell me about what went on, or are they curious?
Nah, not much. I feel that I didn't do a doggone thing. And I had a cousin who was in the Battle of the Bulge in Sweden, shot down. He was a paratrooper, shot down. All these people, the Marines and the Army and whoever was involved, doing all this fighting, they're the heroes. I felt I was just on the periphery. I wasn't even part of that. Sometimes I feel that way. I don't feel I have somebody saying, man, that was great, you were in World War II. I don't know why they have that feeling, but sometimes I do.
You're not alone for folks who, in your generation, who were in the service, who feel like because they weren't shot at or something that they didn't quite have the same feeling. Our perspective, Phil and I have talked about this, is you were part of the machinery that was necessary in order to make all this happen. So if you don't have the replacements, the support, the back room, the cargo, that's the team.
I agree with you, but I still get that feeling.
Yep. It's real. I mean, no question, it's real.
Because somebody said, well, were you in the service? I said, yeah, I was in the last part of World War II. Man, and like I'm some wonderful guy, you know. I will say this though, when I enlisted, I couldn't wait to get in there to be part of it. Turned out, because of my age, I wasn't. Then I was in the reserves after, when the Korean War started, 1950. I never got called back. I didn't want to enlist again, though. By that time, I had a job, started working and things like that. But I said, well, I'm available if you want me. So anyway, that's my story.
And a good one it is.